Poker is business. Big business.
$743,000. Over $900,000.
Wow! $135 into $1.6 million.
Prizes might sound large, but that's nothing.
11 places will be paid. £1.1 million, the minimum payout if you're in the money, with $19 million hanging up top.
In 2023, the poker industry is estimated to be worth between $118 and $150 billion worldwide. This ranks higher than the national GDP of 75% of all countries on the planet. The poker industry is still booming, expected to grow between 12 and 13.5% a year between now and 2030. As they say, during a gold rush, be the one selling pickaxes.
Draw to add some drama for Coleman.
Always outs, right? There's always got to be outs.
To that end, many seek in on the action. Casinos, online poker sites, live card rooms, and training platforms have all been keen to capitalize.
This basic poker strategy.
Poker, right now, is booming, and the small stakes games are amazing.
But the true star power of the poker world are the branded live poker titles. The World Series of Poker, Triton, PokerStars, APT, they've all been great at marketing poker fame and boosting support for poker as a whole. The World Poker Tour is one of the largest. The WPT is a year-long series of major open-field poker tournaments held at prestigious casinos worldwide. Attracting the greatest names and personalities, winning a major WPT event is like taking down a tennis grand slam. It means you've arrived as a poker player. Just competing in the circuit will take you to some of the most incredible and exotic destinations on Earth. In 2021, the WPT was sold to Element Partners for $105 million. Under its new CEO, Adam Pliska, the WPT has expanded aggressively. In 2022, the WPT World Championship attracted almost 3,000 entries, generating a total prize pool exceeding $29 million. In December last year, the same event achieved nearly 4,000 entries with a mind-blowing $40 million prize pool guarantee. While these sums are doubtless impressive, running a major live tournament series is expensive. Hundreds of dealers, cashiers, security, hospitality staff, tournament directors, and surveillance are all required for it to operate. More than anything, it is these labour inputs that consume WPT's bottom line. Unsurprisingly, the World Poker Tour seeks to minimise these costs. This is Nagaworld Resorts in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. Since 2019, the WPT has held events at Nagaworld of increasing size.
We are in Southeast Asia for WPT Cambodia.
And in January 2024, the WPT will hold its flagship Mike Sexton Champions Cup Festival at Nagaworld for the first time. The event is headlined by a WPT Cambodia Championship main event with a $3,500 buy-in. Staff at Nagaworld, by contrast, earn around $250 per month, working 6 days a week. A single entry in this year's WPT main event is a full year's salary for the person dealing the cards. Working conditions are appalling. Operating year-round in a smoking environment, staff are allegedly denied bathroom breaks, and there are reports of frequent abuse and sexual harassment by customers. Right now you may be wondering, well, where is their union? Don't Nagaworld workers have representatives looking out for their interests, like nearly every other casino around the world? Well, yes, they do. However, the Cambodian government, which has close ties to Nagaworld's management, has implemented a simple solution when it comes to those fighting for basic labour rights. Throw them all in jail. This is Chhim Sithar, a former table dealer. Ms Sithar is now president of the LSRU.
My name is Chhim Sithar. I'm the union president of Nagaworld Hotel and Casino Union from Cambodia.
To say that Ms Sithar has endured hardship is an understatement. Her fight began around 4 years ago, when more and more Nagaworld employees were opting to join the union. Under Cambodian law, if 50% of employees are union members, all workers are entitled to collective bargaining for pay and conditions. By 2021, that goal had almost been reached. Fearful that collective bargaining might increase labour costs, Nagaworld management decided to act. The same year, Nagaworld illegally sacked 1,300 of its employees, around 90% of whom were union members. This dramatically reduced the proportion of unionised staff and prevented collective bargaining arrangements. Ms Sithar led a peaceful strike in response against these sackings.
The workers' union has accused the company of violating labor rights by laying off more than 1,300 employees this year. Nagaworld, in turn, has accused the workers of engaging in illegal protests.
And consequently, she and other union leaders were violently arrested and thrown in jail by the Cambodian authorities, allegedly for so-called incitement. Initially, she was held in prison for a period of 74 days. Then last year, Ms Sithar attended a trade union conference in Melbourne, Australia. There she met union leaders and local politicians. Upon landing back in Phnom Penh, Ms Sithar was immediately rearrested. This time, Chhim Sithar was sentenced to a full 2 years imprisonment, a sentence that in December last year an appeals court upheld. Among the political leaders she met at the Australian conference was Mr Julian Hill, a government MP who has been an outspoken critic of Chhim Sithar's arrest.
She was arrested when she got off the plane in Cambodia on a pretext that she was not supposed to travel overseas as it was a breach of her bail conditions. Of course, no one had ever told her of this condition. It's nonsense. She wasn't trying to bring down capitalism or end corruption in Cambodia. She was simply chatting about being in Melbourne and challenges that she shares with other trade union organisers worldwide.
In communication with us, Mr Hill did not hold back. It is appalling and unacceptable that the Cambodian regime arrested Chhim Sithar as soon as she returned from the International Trade Union Convention in Melbourne, where I had met with her, he said. He emphasised that the Australian government's position remains steadfast and unequivocal. Australia has and continues to raise her case, and Cambodia should drop the fake charges and let her free. Alluding to Cambodia's lack of an independent judiciary, Mr Hill went on. Alternatively, given everyone knows the courts are controlled by the government in Cambodia, the Supreme Court could simply overturn the decision in the current appeal. These comments may be blunt, but they are by no means isolated. Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and the International Labour Organization have all labelled Sithar's prosecution a sham. For its part, the Cambodian government claims Chhim Sithar broke bail conditions when she travelled to Australia. However, a lawyer claims these conditions were only presented after she was arrested and lacked the required thumbprint proving receipt. As bitter as the feeling is among Australian politicians, arguably the most striking stance has been taken by the US government. Every year, the State Department selects just 10 people from around the world to receive the Human Rights Defender Award for extraordinary sacrifices made promoting rights and freedoms. In 2023, Chhim Sithar became the first Cambodian in history to receive the Human Rights Defender Award. In communication with us, a US State Department spokesperson said Chhim Sithar received the award, quote, in recognition for her exceptional valour and leadership in advocating for workers' rights despite facing physical harassment and eventual arrest. And the conditions Sithar endures in prison are inhumane. In an earlier interview, she described how she was locked up in a cell with more than 70 other prisoners.
Live in a very crowded rooms, so my room with 76 prisoner in the room, and some other colleagues were put in like 150 prisoner in the cell.
Inedible food, limited water, and a total lack of access to basic necessities like soap and sanitation being the norm, while bribes needed to be paid even for a pillow. Visitors are not allowed to talk about anything relating to the outside world, especially the industrial dispute.
But they just can come and ask me, how are you? That's only the question that we can ask and we talk about.
You may be thinking to yourself, well, that's obviously cruel and unjust, but what about the strike action? In the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, perhaps Nagaworld does need to keep labour costs low. After all, Cambodia's gambling industry is heavily dependent on tourism from China.
The government has planned to develop this place into a mini Macau,
a country which has had one of the strictest lockdown regimes in the world. Maybe Nagaworld couldn't afford to retain staff in this downturn. Maybe the LSIU's demands were unreasonable given the difficult business environment. Okay, let's look at the numbers. In just the first 9 months of 2023, Nagaworld reported a 12% increase in revenue that year, totaling $379 million US. This figure alone is enough to pay all 1,300 staff that have been laid off their full salary for 100 years. It's an income to wage disparity that would make a 19th century robber baron blush. And if there was any doubt as to Nagaworld's real intentions, during the pandemic the union did offer to reduce working hours for all staff by 50% to limit operating costs and preserve jobs. Nagaworld management refused and instead proceeded with the layoffs. Now they're hiring aggressively but refuse to re-employ several hundred formerly laid off union members. By specifically selecting Chhim Sithar as Cambodia's sole ever recipient of its prestigious Human Rights Award, the US government could not have made its feelings on Nagaworld's treatment or the Cambodian government's persecutions any clearer. Far from supporting the US government's principled stand, however, the WPT will be a major beneficiary of these abuses in exploiting these workers themselves. Seeing this from the perspective of the US government, it's hard not to be outraged. Imagine this: you are a long-suffering American diplomat. You and your colleagues have worked tirelessly to build coalitions across Southeast Asia, Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Cambodia, discouraging commerce built on persecution, while also promoting human rights and the rule of law. With perseverance, this bears fruit as more and more enterprises consider corporate responsibility in their investment decisions. Then, after all this, a company swoops in to capitalize on the investment void that was generated in part by your efforts. But it's not the usual suspects, Western adversaries like Russia, China, or Iran. No, it's an American company, not just acting as a foreign customer, but actually traveling to Nagaworld directly and doing it themselves. This slap in the face is at best a total farce, at worst, it's rank hypocrisy. For a long time, poker has been associated in public consciousness with the Wild West, gangsterism, and casino gambling. However, the reality is that these days the game is dominated by geeky wizards using highly complex game theory to compete at an elite level in a game of skill.
These are some of the best poker players in the world right now. Do they look like people who live purely off feelings and intuitions? Look at them!
Sure, many still see poker as degeneracy, and a few of us even like it that way. However, as a community, most have been keen to shake the stereotype and showcase poker as a respectable sport and industry.
I'm the best! The best! Yes! The best!
In any business, there is moral hazard. Avoiding cartoon villain levels of evil is a pretty low bar, even for the greediest enterprise, and one that the WPT should be expected to clear. We reached out to the WPT for an explanation, hoping to hear how they were leveraging their influence with Nagaworld to effect positive change, show how they engage directly with local labour representatives, or at the very least, explain how the workers supporting WPT events would be fairly compensated during the series. Instead, they declined to comment. However, WPT's CEO Adam Pliska remarked previously how, quote, Nagaworld has been an excellent partner for us, boasting about the record-breaking primetime WPT events they were hosting. We asked the US State Department about the planned upcoming poker series. While not mentioning WPT by name, the sentiment was clear.
Protecting and supporting human rights defenders is a key priority of US foreign policy. The US government regularly engages with governments, workers, labour organisations and trade unions, civil society and the private sector to protect and promote respect for internationally recognised labour rights.
The WPT also includes Australia's Gold Coast in its flagship global circuit. While acknowledging the World Poker Tour's right to make commercial decisions outside Australia's borders, Mr Hill did say that, quote, it would be a great and welcome step if they refused to hold any events at Nagaworld Casino until this issue is resolved. The heroic efforts of Chhim Sithar and the plight of Nagaworld's employees continue to be recognised by major institutions across all continents. To be clear, we don't hate the WPT. Their events have brought incredible prestige to poker competition, and we wish for them every success in responsibly expanding the prominence and reach of the game we all love. But we do call on the WPT and all poker operators of whatever platform to ensure that basic standards are upheld. Together as a poker community, we can ensure those representing the industry become good corporate citizens we can all be proud of. We urge you to share this video in unequivocal solidarity with Chhim Sithar and her noble struggle for basic labour rights for Nagaworld employees. In the meantime, as poker experiences its latest boom, each of us should individually reflect on this case. Is it appropriate to be playing in a series in such circumstances? We're not able to answer this question definitively, but it's definitely a conversation we should all be having.